Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duck Bricks. I'm Chris, and we have to talk about the new $1,000 LEGO Death Star. This is the single most expensive LEGO set they have ever put out. And it might be one of the most controversial as well. You see, whenever people hear $1,000 UCS Death Star, people expected at least a sphere. But this is more of a slice of the Death Star. It's mostly rectangular, it is a series of dioramas, and for the most expensive LEGO set ever, that was a very strange choice. That being said, I think there actually is a lot of merit to the set. I can see what LEGO was going for when they were trying to do this, but would I have been happier with having them maybe shrink it down half size, but at least have a full sphere that opens up? Probably. Let's jump in right now as we just talk about the reveal of the biggest and most expensive LEGO set ever, and what this could mean for the future of LEGO Star Wars. Alright, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. This video is mostly going to be a discussion between me and my friend Zach about what we think about the Death Star, and I want to preface this by saying that after building it, our thoughts pretty drastically changed, and I'll be putting out a follow-up video to this one after the review embargo is up, where we actually share how our thoughts changed and evolved after this video. I think that this is really emblematic of how the general public might be reacting to this, first seeing images and then actually seeing it fully built in their local LEGO stores, because after seeing this fully built, I will say our opinion changed quite a lot, and it's actually really interesting to see just how much it changed. So definitely stay tuned to the follow-up video for this as soon as I'm allowed to post it, probably in a few days, and let's go on over and unbox the Death Star. Death Star time. Dude, the Death Star is finally here. This is absolutely insane. This box is massive. It might be one of the biggest LEGO boxes that I've ever gotten, and on top is the exclusive GWP, which is a TIE Fighter, and I haven't even seen it yet, so I cannot wait to unbox this thing. Let's get this over to the dining table. Oh my goodness. Absolutely crazy. I'm actually a little more excited to unbox the GWP because that one actually haven't been revealed yet, but let us open this bad boy up. Oh my goodness, I don't know how we're getting it out of the box. Okay, let's do this. All right, so this is the new LEGO Death Star. It is $1,000 US. It is the most expensive LEGO set ever made, and this is the front of the box right here. It is a very controversial set. I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm really curious to see what folks think about it. In fact, we're going to be talking about all of our thoughts on the Death Star throughout this video, but let's also see the GWP too. I'm quite excited for that. Ooh, oh, that's actually pretty cool. This is like a little mini TIE Fighter, a TIE Fighter with Imperial hanger rack. I wonder if this hanger, yeah, so this is literally meant to go inside the Death Star. So it actually plugs into the Death Star so you can have a little TIE Fighter on the inside. 2 stormtroopers and a TIE pilot. Is actually pretty generous for a GWP as well. So that's quite nice, but obviously the focus is on the Death Star itself. Now, if you look here at the sheer amount of minifigures included, we've got like 3 different Lukes, Leia, 2 Han Solos, Chewie, Obi-Wan, R2, and C-3PO. And then we have Tarkin, Darth Vader, Palpatine, of course. You have one of the Imperial dignitaries. Yularen making his return from the polybag. Actually, was one of the last times we got him in the older form. Admiral Monty, of course, General Tag, Director Krennic, and Galen Erso. So we got some Rogue One love there as well. And then all sorts of other characters. But my favorite is probably the hot tub stormtrooper from the Skywalker saga. So this is crazy. Looking onto the back of the box, this is actually a really interesting back of the box because they show close-ups of some of the scenes, but I honestly wasn't expecting it to be like this big. Usually the back of the box showcases like another look at the main build, but they decided not to do that. They decided to just focus on specific scenes, which is quite interesting. When this image first, I think, leaked online, I assumed it was like a tiny corner of the back of the box, but not the entire back. So certainly very interesting box design. On one side, you've got like the Death Star laser here, but honestly, I cannot wait to get this open and actually start talking about it, so let's go. Okay, so I am here with my friend and co-founder for my startup Nui, Zach here. Now, Zach, I wanted to bring over to talk about the Death Star because how would you describe your like fandom experience with LEGO?
I used to be a bigger Lego collector, a lot more than I am now, and I was never quite as big as Duck Bricks here. The world's largest Lego collection is pretty hard to beat. Though I will say my upstairs of my house came pretty close when I was around 11 or 12.
That's right.
And my last experience with the Death Star was saving up every penny I had to get the 2008 Death Star, which was about 3,803 pieces, and this one is about 2.5 times as big, which is insane to think about because I thought at the time that set was just a monster. I could not have predicted how far we'd come.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally crazy. I wanted to have you on in particular because I feel like you've had a bit of a Lego Dark Ages. I think by exposure to me and all the other Lego friends, you've started to kind of slowly get back into Lego. Zach has officially watched all of Ninjago now, so that's we're still missing like season 1.
We're missing we've watched it in all like completely scattered order, so we got to go back and do season 1.
Correct. So you've seen most of it. Anyway, you're getting back into Lego, and I wanted to get your perspective because I feel like there has been a very extreme like fandom reaction to the Death Star, both positive and negative, but almost everyone that I talk to is like from deep within the AFOL community, and maybe like that's the perspective I'm going to bring, but I also wanted to bring in your perspective of like, what do you think of this set as somebody who is maybe more of a casual fan of Lego?
I will admit, after having seen the leaks, I was thinking this is like complete trash.
Yeah.
To be blunt.
Yeah.
Like, it was a model that looked pretty okay, but I was expecting a lot more of... I don't know. I come from a time where Lego was very, very, like, child plaything oriented and not so much sits on a shelf, looks pretty, and, you know, has a bunch of minifigures and a bunch of moving parts, but it's not really meant to be used more so than looked at and appreciated. And I kind of think that, like, after seeing the sheer size of this thing, I'm a lot more impressed than where I started out, and that's just the box. But, I mean, if you look on the side of the box over here, you can sort of get a better sense of the thickness of this thing.
Oh, that's 1-to-1 as well.
Yeah.
That's 1-to-1 scale, so it is this
And
big.
the depth is actually a lot better than I originally appreciated. So you can see here from some of the areas, there actually is enough space, especially in that hangar scene or in that Emperor Palpatine scene, where you can sort of set up minifigures, you can pose, you can play with them in a similar way that you could the 2008 Death Star. It was just so much more open and accessible when there wasn't that tight... I'm going to flip this around again. Like, the thickness is good, but there's a big wall here that prevents any sort of positioning or any sort of display from the back side of this set. And the Death Star 2008 version was just a lot more, it was completely open.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was, to be honest, very disappointed when I heard the first rumor about what the set was going to be. I think that when you think of UCS Death Star, the thing that came to mind was, oh my gosh, they're going to do a giant sphere, and probably, at least in my mind, they're going to do the full sphere and have it open up. So it would probably hinge open, and then you'd have scenes on the inside, scenes on the inside. And I was like, or maybe they even have like panels on the outside, but those would be a little finicky to like remove panels every time. So I was thinking it would hinge open. It'd almost be like a covered version of the 2008 playset with full like sphere covering around it, and you could open it up. And obviously, when I heard the rumors that it was going to be like a Death Star slice, I legitimately did not believe the rumors. I was like, I don't believe that. I don't buy it. There's no way it's going to just be that. For the UCS Death Star, it's maddening to have the most expensive Lego set not be what everyone would want it to be. But then the images came out, and I was proven wrong, and I mean, kind of similar to you, Zach, I was really disappointed when the images leaked. I think that was like 2 weeks ago. We were literally sitting around like playing board games, and someone else we were playing with was like, guys, we gotta stop. Death Star images have hit the internet. The second image just hit Instagram. And it was a very chaotic moment because I think we were all like, oh, what is that? Like, but honestly, I think it's kind of grown on me a little bit just because I've been trying to like realistically think of, for 9,023 pieces, what could you actually do? You could probably do a sphere of like decent size that could open up, or they decided to go crazy big. Like this is almost, I think, bigger than the footprint of the Millennium Falcon, the UCS version, on its side.
Yeah, but so I mean, if you think about it, the box itself actually does remind me a lot of the 2008 Death Star.
Yeah.
But again, it was 2.5, this is 2.5 times the pieces. So I'm thinking, where's it all going? Well, that 2008 Death Star was a spherical shape, but it was all open.
Yeah.
So I imagine a lot of these bricks are going toward the back plating and toward the side. Like, I would guess over half. which doesn't seem very, like, it looks good, but it doesn't seem economically worth it to me.
Yeah, like my problem with this is that I feel like this is very emblematic of like the current state of LEGO design, for better or for worse. I think LEGO would never release a model like the 2008 Death Star today because it just doesn't fit like what LEGO as a company is trying to do. Something that LEGO has done, and especially LEGO Star Wars. I feel like this hits Star Wars the most for some reason, is that ships are smaller than they were before, but they're more compact, they're a little more detailed, but they're way more sturdy and stable. Like an X-Wing that would come out this year would probably be half the size of like the 2007 X-Wing, but it would be a lot more like maybe a lot more accurate to the source material and a lot more detailed, like with little detail. And I think if you look at like the side of the build here, like there's a lot of studs in the side detailing, especially you can see it on this side, which is eating up so many pieces, and I think it looks good. Obviously it does look good, but I have to wonder, like, I think we've gone a bit too far in the wrong direction, like from having things be open and like loose and very fragile versus super sturdy, but way too many pieces are used to make it sturdy.
Yeah, and you can see here very obviously on the sides, like places specifically where they could have probably made it one brick, but instead they made it like 8 or 9 or 10. And they're all sort of a more random pattern to give it that personality.
Yeah.
But, you know, still, they probably could have built this same model with a little bit less granular design for 6,000 pieces. Does that seem fair to say?
Maybe. Yeah, I think so, because it's so hard for me to visualize this, because like looking at it, it's a very weird thing to look at. Like I don't have a good sense of scale here. I've seen comparisons with the UCS Falcon, and it looks bigger. So I imagine it's got to be like this big probably, and I can't even fathom in my mind what that would even look like.
That's true. It's also going to matter a lot what this looks like fully built, especially if this is actually one-to-one, not just from a width perspective, but from a height perspective. Like
it definitely is. So I think it's actually going to be like
actually going to be huge.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, I will save a lot of my final judgments for when this thing is actually built, because right now I'm operating under the assumption of the 2008 Death Star had scenes that were big enough to play with, and this one doesn't. If this scale is anywhere but true, I think I will be proven wrong.
Yeah, I mean, like you can obviously see like scenes here, like I'm sure you could pose minifigures around. I'm just very curious what it's going to look like fully built. I mean, it's certainly quite controversial. I think at the end of the day, would I have preferred them to do a sphere that opened up? I think my answer is still yes, even if it meant it's like half the size of this, like height-wise. I think they probably could have fit in most of the scenes they wanted to fit in by doing something like that. And I'm sure they prototyped it, and I'm sure there's a reason as to why they did this, but I am a little bit worried because I feel like this set is like, it's gonna go beyond the LEGO fandom. I think that, I mean, even just talking to our friends, friends of ours who haven't touched LEGO in years, they heard $1,000 Death Star, they're back in. They're like, what is that gonna be like? I feel like there's gonna be an influx of like fans who grew up with LEGO and adults now who are interested in this. And that's why I'm curious, like, from your perspective, right? Because my perspective as a LEGO fan, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I wish they did a sphere. I think that'd be more interesting. I think I wish it was more playable. But like, do you think the average like person who hasn't touched LEGO in like 20 years would like something like this?
I think that they would like to look at it. I think that, I don't know, again, a lot of my judgments there are going to be reserved for when the final thing is built, and I can see just how large it is compared to my head and my hands.
Yeah.
I will say, as far as these 9,000 pieces goes, I am seeing some aspects of this that are very, very uniquely cool and something that you just weren't really able to do on the previous Death Star models. Like, as a semi-experienced LEGO designer, how do you think that they made this elevator component work? Because it looks super cool and very different from the implementation we had in 2008.
Well, I was gonna say, because LEGO has made an elevator piece. They've used it in stuff like the Gabby's Dollhouse sets, or the LEGO Friends Modern Mansion. I actually think that elevator piece is too big to use. What I think they're doing here is they're using one of the elements that they've used in the elevator piece. They made a new corkscrew element, I think a couple of years back for LEGO City of all things. And they've used this corkscrew to like move a brick up and down on a rail. I would imagine that like there's a crank up here with a gear. I would almost be certain that's the piece they're using, and they've probably custom built a more compact elevator. And I think that's a really cool idea. The other thing I'm curious about that they don't advertise in the back of the box at all is the hot tub, because you have the hot tub Stormtrooper, which is kind of like an iconic, funny moment in both the Skywalker saga, but also like that was from the Complete Saga video game. And you don't see it anywhere here.
Yeah, it seems hidden. I don't like. Where would it be on this?
I really don't know.
Like maybe this little area right here. Or no, that's the gunner.
That's the gunner. So my only thing is like maybe it's up here because if you look at this area, it looks like there's like a separate room hidden away. Actually,
it could be.
I think I see a rubber duck. I don't know what that. Yeah, there's a rubber duck. There's a rubber duck right there.
Yeah.
I have seen that duck elevator way too many times.
Thinks he's duck bricks.
Bro thinks he's duck bricks. Yeah. So it's definitely there. So it's certainly there. But then, like, does the elevator go through it then? Like, or maybe it's just like a little tub on the side, like just right here, and it's this big. But that feels. But again, there's clearly surprises hidden away.
And that is an advantage that you get with a closed design like this, as opposed to 2008, where everything was out in the open, and they didn't really bother to do things like elevator doors, but they certainly couldn't have done things like hidden rooms.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool and unique element of this.
I do think that's probably the only hidden room, though. I don't think there's many others. Like the thing I'm wondering.
Even still, that one's tucked away. And
that one's tucked away on the side. It's nice. So I'm looking at the scenes here, and another thing I'm curious, like, you've got the trash compactor down here. Do they have some sort of a chute connecting the prison area, like, down to the trash compactor? I don't think so. I don't see where that would go, but I feel like if you're building it like this, that's an advantage of building it like this. I think it'd be, like, almost a little silly not to try to build in that as a feature. But I don't know where it would go.
And also, like, it's completely possible I'm hallucinating this, but there are certain rooms, like the hangar here and the Emperor Palpatine's throne right here, that look a little bit deeper than some of the other spaces here. And I'm thinking maybe they could do something in this back area by making certain rooms shallower and freeing up that area to add a chute or something else that sort of exists in the background that's more hidden.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, speaking of the scenes, like, how do we feel about the scenes depicted? I personally think they got pretty much everything you'd want. Like, you've got trash compactor, you have that one scene where, like, Han Solo runs down and then, like, a million stormtroopers, like, turn and start shooting at him and he runs away. You've got the prison cell, you've got the hangar, you have the throne room, the, like, chute where they're crossing it, as well as where Obi-Wan was kind of depowering the lock on their ship. You've got Vader's own chamber here, the command room where C-3PO and R2-D2 were like trying to figure out the security room and the prison, and then you've got the boardroom there. And I think, and obviously like the Death Star firing area. I can't think of another scene. Like, I think they actually covered literally everything.
I can't either, and I think the Vader's chamber is definitely like the coolest new thing that they did, in my personal opinion. And I'm thinking, I also love this vehicle.
Yeah, the Imperial Shuttle Tidarium, like, scaled down, it actually looks pretty good.
It does, but that also, I don't know how scaled down it is, because when this whole thing is fully built, it could be a lot bigger than we're all expecting, and that could turn out to be a pretty, honestly, very big vehicle.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that.
I
was
certainly big enough to fit a
skeptical,
minifigure.
certainly at least one. I'm sure maybe one in the back as well. I mean, I was skeptical about using parts to include a ship, but I guess they did do that for the original Death Star 2 in 2008. Like, they had Vader's TIE Advance going out of the hangar, and they literally have a space to hang the TIE fighters. I wonder, I'm curious with the GWP, can you fit, like, the TIE fighter here as well?
I would think
have
so,
them next
because
to each
it's pretty
other?
compatible with each other, and you'd have to have the two of them in the same hangar. There's
Right.
nowhere else to put the TIE fighter
Yeah.
except for outside of the set, which wouldn't be cool. That's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
considered compatible. But I will say, the fact that they included that in the purchase of this, like, very classy move.
That's nice. Yeah, that is really cool. So I'm curious, like, how are we feeling about the price? Because, again, I have a lot more, like, I think there's a lot more importance on the price to me as, like, a diehard LEGO fan. Been collecting LEGO forever, and $1,000 they have never, ever done before. Most expensive, I think, is $850, I want to say, for the Millennium Falcon right now. They raised the price, as well as a couple of the UCS AT-AT, also $850. But, I mean, they haven't even touched $900, and they certainly haven't touched $1,000. So, on paper, $1,000, 9,023 pieces, and then all the minifigures with a license. I actually think on paper, parts-wise, that feels fair-ish to me. But I really don't know if they should have done this as your first $1,000 set. But I'm curious what you think about that.
If the scale is this box, which it's not, I would say no. I do not have an accurate assessment of what the scale of this is going to be, but I will say I don't think the number of customers that they're going to lose out on because of the pricing is going to be anything compared to the amount of buzz that this has generated, launching
Yeah.
at $1,000. As you mentioned, a lot of people are coming back into LEGO and sort of starting to pay attention to this set because of this sticker shock.
Yeah.
And I think that is a lot more significant than whoever they're going to lose. You know, the difference between $850 and $1,000 isn't going to be enough to put a lot of people.
So you think like it's kind of like an all press is good press kind of thing, where it's like even though this might not be the set that everyone was wanting, just the fact that it's $1,000 and you can say like, oh my gosh, it's the $1,000 Lego set. People are going to know about it.
You're saying that LEGO has charged something like $800 or $850 for sets in the past.
Yeah.
Do you think they could have realistically charged anything less than $850 for this, given the amount of pieces, given the amount of detail?
I think they could have charged $850. I think they absolutely could have.
So then the question becomes, is the difference between $850
Yeah.
and $1,000 worth all of the buzz that LEGO has gotten about this set? I would argue yes.
Yeah, I guess that's a really interesting way to think about it. Like, it is kind of a marketing thing to like charge it for more money than maybe they even need to. Like, $1,000, people are like, oh my gosh, $1,000, that sounds crazy, versus, oh, it's the $850 Death Star, whatever, it's the same price as the Falcon and all that.
And
so
another
that
thing to
makes sense,
consider
yeah.
is that this is like going to be the benchmark for what $1,000 gets you in LEGO. I imagine this is not going to be their last attempt at a $1,000 set. Far from it.
No.
So this is what they're telling us to expect from that $1,000 plus price range.
Yeah. If anything, it might be like they can go up from here, because I honestly feel like as cool as this set is, it's a little weird to me. I don't know. I kind of want it to be a little bit more involved. Like, I don't know, $1,000 is a lot to pay. And I think you have a different opinion than me. Like, you're thinking $1,000 was a good idea for the marketing. I think as a diehard LEGO fan, I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't feel $1,000. Like, I feel like the UCS AT-AT was like maybe a little cooler than this. That might be a hot take, I don't know. Or the UCS Millennium Falcon, but it's so hard to say. The other thing is like, it's using the Ultimate Collector Series label. And I don't think you're super familiar with this, but like from a LEGO perspective, the UCS label is usually for like super screen accurate vehicles, big vehicles and all that. And they have a separate line they call the Master Builder Series, where they've done the Cloud City, which is basically like this on its side, like a horizontal version of this. Right. But it was a Master Builder Series Cloud City. And I almost feel like within the LEGO, like die-hard LEGO fan community, people would have been a lot more open to the idea of this set being the diorama it is if they called it Master Builder Series. But then, I know why they called it the UCS series, because people think Ultimate Collector Series and they're like, oh, that's like the one I had as a kid. Or like, that's like the crazy, like that's the brand name, right? So it is a toss-up. Because I think it makes way more sense as Master Builder Series.
I think I remember the Cloud City set that you're talking about. Yeah. That one was a lot more open concept. Right? Yeah. It wasn't really big on the walls or big on the detail. It was more so like, here are the scenes inside the city that you're going to be able to pose minifigures around and play with. It was a lot more of a diorama that sort of sits on the ground.
That's true.
And I feel like what you're saying here does make sense in comparison to that, but I would also say they put very obvious amount of detail around the back of this, around the sides of this, that sort of exceed that threshold for we're comparing to Cloud City.
Yeah.
You know, it is mostly a diorama, and I actually like that a lot more about it as opposed to something like the Millennium Falcon, where, like, would it be fair to say maybe 70% of pieces in that set just went toward the frame? Of the Millennium Falcon, maybe 80%.
I mean, the Millennium Falcon, a lot of it was the internal structure. There was like a couple little scenes on the inside, but that's not the focus. Like,
and the focus on this one is scenes. It's it is the Death Star. There is a lot of detail in the outer shell. Yeah. But the focus is obviously on the scenes and being able to pose those minifigures, so it's a lot more interactable than something like the Millennium Falcon. Yeah. I would say that makes it a more obvious purchase for, somebody like me who cares a lot about interactivity. Yeah. Would I pay $1,000 for this? Probably no.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah,
I've been out of the LEGO community for like 10 years now, and I don't see myself getting back in with a $1,000 set like this.
Interesting.
But I don't know, maybe. I would say that short of the Instagram video that's been making the rounds this last week or 2 weeks, the one with like the 50,000 piece big Death Star spherical thing in the museum.
That'd be like $10,000.
Exactly, yeah. I would say short of that, this is probably the best Death Star we're going to get, and it does look really good on the box.
Interesting.
Like, I had a lot more negative perception of this having seen just, leaked images that weren't
Yeah.
very high quality.
Yeah.
Now that it's sitting here, I'm a lot more excited to put this thing together.
Yeah, that is actually a really interesting thing, because I was going to ask you, like, so from your perspective, would you buy this? And the answer is no. You would not spend $1,000 on this, even as someone who's like excited by it, someone who likes the build. Would you spend $850? Is my question.
I don't know. I'm very used to, when I got out of Lego, my upper threshold for what I thought a Lego set could cost is
Yeah.
like $500.
Yeah.
And I know obviously a lot of, inflation has happened since then,
Yeah,
but also
yeah.
the fact that Lego uses 2.5 times as many pieces on a build like this as they used to.
Yeah.
For, I would argue, the same amount of interactivity as the 2008 set, if
Yeah.
not a little bit less.
Yeah.
So for somebody who actually wants to play with these sets and not just look at them, I don't know if I could justify $850 to $1,000 on this.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's totally fair, and I'm really curious, like, if other people, like, who are in the same headspace as you are going to get this. And my big question right now is, like, how popular is this going to be? Because I feel like it's been making a lot of waves online, and it's, at the time of recording this video, it has not been officially revealed. Obviously, it will be by the time we publish this, but there are no other images online. Like, I'm dying to know what the back of this looks like, and I'm sure there's gonna be an image of the back of it, like, the second I publish this video, but I don't know what that looks like now. So I'm really curious, like, what people's, like, the main public perception is going to be to this. I know people were excited when they heard the leaks. A lot less excited, at least in the Lego space, when we saw the images. But I'm really curious, like, is that just the Lego world, or is that, like, everybody included?
I really think a lot of people are going to get massive sticker shock from this price, $1,000, and people are going to be looking toward the reviews and toward the influencers who are going to be putting out their takes on this to tell them, is this worth my money? Because it's not obvious looking at the box.
No.
It's not obvious looking
It's
at
not
the
even
piece
obvious
count.
to me
It's
as a
not-
seasoned Lego builder.
Right, and we're going to have to really, dive deep into here, and
Yeah.
it's going to matter a lot what this looks like when it's finished. So hopefully we'll be able to have a good follow-up then
Yeah.
after this is put together. But
No, I'm excited. I mean, I think that's a pretty good way to end this. Like, we obviously will be building it together. I'm sure we're going to be doing a review on it together as well, kind of factor in our thoughts. So definitely stay tuned. I don't know, as of right now, when I'm going to be allowed to post a review, but there's going to be some embargo date, and everyone's going to post a review at the same time. But I think it'd be fun, like, at the end of the review, we'll sit down again, have it be built sitting in front of us, and we'll revisit it. Because if you're asking, is this worth $1,000? The answer I have is I have no idea. I really don't know. Would I spend $1,000 for this? I mean, I would, because I'm duck bricks. But, like, you should not be asking me that. Like, if I were to put myself in the head of, like, a normal Lego fan, I really don't know. And I think it is the kind of thing that is a make or break in person, which is actually pretty rare for a Lego set. Like, usually I can look at a Lego set and just be like, oh yeah, that's worth this much, or like, oh my god, that's so expensive, I definitely wouldn't pay full price for that. But this, it's like, it's so hard to tell, and it's such a weird, they've never done this price point before, so I'm really curious how this does.
yep, and it's a lot more ambiguous. It's, do you buy Lego sets to just sit on a shelf and look really, really pretty?
Yeah.
If so, I don't know if this is worth $1,000 for you, because there are a lot of sets that you can get for way cheaper that
Yeah.
still have that same kind of aesthetic value in a room or on a shelf or in a display case. Is this good for somebody who just wants to play with it and who wants to pose all the minifigures? And there are a lot of minifigures here to
Yeah.
pose. I still don't know. I don't know if you could justify this, knowing that the 2008 version of this was way more open, had about the same amount of minifigures for about a third of the price and a third of the pieces.
Yes.
I don't really know, offhand who this is for.
That's actually a really good point. Like, I also don't know who this is for. And actually, speaking to that, an interesting thing that they've done, which is not fantastic, I actually think it's not great, but one thing they've done is they've really clearly tried to position this as a play scale set. Like, for instance, they have better versions of these figures that they use for, like, specialized adult collector sets, like C-3PO. Super easy example. He usually has dual molded legs, where you have, like, the bottom of his boot molded silver with printing on the side of the legs and even printing on the arms. They could have done that for this one, but they literally chose to give us the, like, cheaper play scale version of the figure. And the same thing goes for a lot of these other characters. Like, we've gotten Han Solo before with dual molded legs to be wearing boots, and I'm sure we could have gotten a lot more detail, like the Imperials wearing black boots. They could have done dual molded legs, but they've literally given us the most basic play version of the figure In fact, I think the only figure with dual molded legs is the Hot Tub Stormtrooper, which I guess makes sense. You kind of have to do it for that one.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it all,
say a lot of these are pretty, standard, like, your solid color bricks. But
Yeah.
for example, I mean, Han Solo's got the holster right here. The Stormtroopers have two slightly different legs, even though they're not completely obviously noticeable.
Well, they're like
they
their
are
legs
slightly
are printed,
different.
which is
C-3PO is obviously different. Obi-Wan is that's different. And to be honest, like as somebody who's not going to be paying super close attention to like the printing on each minifigure, I don't think they needed to do that. They did that as a detail that is going to be really appreciated by the super fans of Star Wars and the people who are buying this to be like as aesthetically close to what they loved in the movies as possible.
That's a really interesting insight because I feel like LEGO fans, and especially like diehard LEGO Star Wars fans, get super caught up on minifigure detail where it's like, for me, I was like, that's ridiculous that C-3PO doesn't have his dual molded leg, but to the average person, they're like, I don't care, like it has C-3PO, whatever.
Exactly. To me, like these two legs here are about 95% the same, and if they made them 100% the same, that would not have impacted my purchase decision.
Interesting.
At all, even in this legs bit.
Yeah, so again, that's another like interesting insight from you because that was like a major complaint and talking point from a lot of people in the LEGO community. But again, you have to remember that like the wider people buy in the set, they just look at all these figures and they're like, oh, it has these characters, that's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, very interesting stuff. Anyways, I am really excited to put this together. I assume we're going to be building it together. I'm sure they have like a million different instruction manuals in it, so I'm assuming...
On the subject of putting this together, I remember that when I got the 2008 Death Star, I put it together over the span of the night that I got it, stayed up all night, and then the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, I skipped out that the next day to put the rest of this together. So it took me in total about maybe 8 to 10 hours. This
I have a feeling this one will take us longer.
This is so intimidating to me. I have never put together a set on the scale of 9,000 pieces before.
Yeah.
I expect this to take a month. I don't think it will, but...
Well, with Duckworks helping out, I have a feeling I'll be building, just speed-wise, I'll probably be building like 3/4 of this. If not more. I have a feeling that even if we were to sit down and build it together, I would end up building like 3/4.
I'm sure all that top LEGO Masters training definitely.
Oh yeah. You gotta train your motion, as they say.
Train your motion.
Train your motion. But yeah, anyways, super hyped to build this. I'm curious if we could build it at the same time. Like, I wonder if there's some level of modularity, like, can you build just the throne room scene? Or is it like so integrated in that you have to just build it from the ground up? I really don't know.
That would be another really cool part of this, but I see that like the flooring is very coupled into the walls of the set, so I would imagine that these are not modular.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see if it's able to even be built by 2 people at the same time. I think it'd be a missed opportunity if it wasn't, because I think people are going to want to build this with their friends, people are going to want to build this with their families, so I'm curious if this is going to be like a Samuel build together, a Lil Torp Johnson set, or is it going to be just kind of its own thing, but... Anyways, I guess that about sums it up. We will see you when we do the full review on this, and I'm very curious to see this build, and thanks for joining me to share your thoughts, man.
Thank you for having me.
Alright, Doc out!